This is the Robinson Report for today, November the 11th, 2010. I'd like to give a special thanks to everyone that's been so positive about my earlier podcasts, such as the one about air wars. And I'd like to let you all know that I'm going to continue churning them out as long as there's breath in this body and ideas in this mind. In this edition of the Robinson Report, we're going to talk about race riots. And there are 4 different race riots in particular I'm talking to you about today. The first one being the Sharpeville Massacre in South Africa in 1961. Secondly, we'll go back in time to 1921 to the Oklahoma City stock market Greenwood riots. Thirdly, we'll talk about the LA riots of 1992, or riots that people from my generation most closely remember. And finally, we'll talk about the Jewish pogroms in Russia in the 1860s and 1880s, where Tsar Alexander II gave the serfs liberation but paid for it with his life. I'd like to thank all of you again for your viewership here at the Robinson Report, and I would encourage more feedback through the email address of therobinsonreport@yahoo.com. Once again, therobinsonreport@yahoo.com. Well, here we go again. The race riot edition of the Robinson Report begins now. You are watching the Robinson Report. On March 21st, 1960, South Africa saw a devastating race riot in the town of Sharpeville, South Africa. Many Africans who worked and lived in South Africa had to carry passes to be able to move from one place to another. They were segregated in shanty towns, much like this one. Any white person can demand to see a pass, and this would lead to tensions with the police forces and the native African population. Hendrik Verwoerd and his Nationalist Party are the architects and leaders of the apartheid system. Hendrik Verwoerd, he is the father of the apartheid system.
And at the same time, to do justice to all does not only mean being just to the black man of Africa, but also to be just to the white man of Africa.
All throughout South Africa, there was unrest due to the illegal and immoral pass laws, but legal in that system. Many activists were jailed. Many freedoms were curtailed to maintain this system. And finally, things came to a boiling point. Police fired on protesters, many in the back, all due to a misunderstanding. South Africa's government banned the ANC. Nelson Mandela, leader of the ANC, spoke out against the restrictive pass law.
There are many people who feel that the reaction of the government to our stay at home, ordering a general mobilization, arming the white community, arresting 10,000s of Africans, is show of force throughout the country. Notwithstanding our clear declaration that this campaign is being run on peaceful and non-violent lines, close the chapter as far as our methods of political struggle are concerned.
The incident at Sharpeville set back racial relations in South Africa for 30 years.
What's up? This is Miguel, and you are watching the Robinson Report.
I can't back it up. Birth of a Nation was released and this terrorist organization saw many levels of influence, from popular support in many areas all the way up to the highest level of power in this great nation. The Klan resurgence has been directly attributed to the popularity of Birth of a Nation. And due to its popularity, hypersensitivity occurred to a situation in Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1921, Memorial Day weekend. Shots were fired due to accusations of rape, and the once peaceful Greenwood community of Tulsa, Oklahoma was thrown into turmoil. Businesses were set on fire and looted. Residents were chased out. Many had to go live with relatives and take refuge wherever they could. Many of the news media of the day presented the story. Some say with a slant, others say without. The National Guard was called in 3 days later to restore order. But Greenwood would never be the same. Property damage to the old Greenwood district in Tulsa would be in the millions, and reparations would come 2 generations later. All due to this misunderstanding in this race riot of the black stock market of Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1921 on Memorial Day weekend.
What's up, man? This is Weston, and today you're watching the Robertson Report.
It's right there. Just kidding. My name is Cammy, and you're watching the Robinson Report.
Elaine Tupper and Van Nuys, code for incident 245630-1964.
The March 3rd, 1991 beating of Rodney King by LA police officers was the primary catalyst for this race riot in LA in 1992. Police treatment and the war on drugs were 2 of many reasons for this riot. Social inequities also played a big role. Due to the verdict of acquittal, people began to riot and loot throughout the country, but primarily in LA. High unemployment during the recessionary period in 1991 meant that people were willing to give as much as they can for as little as they can. Vigilantes would eventually take to the streets to defend their property, exacerbating tensions between the black and Korean communities in LA. Reginald Denny, a trucker, was beaten to a pulp by an angry mob in LA, but was helped by many of the same community. This is the paradox of the race riots of the LA riots of 1992. Tsar Alexander II of Russia was a reformer. He emancipated the Russian serfs in 1861 and upgraded Russian infrastructure. Targeted by many for assassination attempts, he ultimately got slain on March 13, 1881. His successor, Alexander III, was a brutal anti-Semite and encouraged violence against the Jews and blamed the Jews for Tsar Alexander II's assassination. For many years, Russian Jewry was the target of mob attacks. They were held down by law and by custom, disallowed from the civil service and disallowed from educational posts. Jews in Russia were effectively the outlaw and thus the target of many attacks and race riots throughout Russia, culminating in the 1881 race riot. The attacks, the army was brought in to bring order, but many times they turned a blind eye to some of the worst atrocities. Women and children and the elderly were targeted and were killed just as much as anyone else. Many Jewish people voted with their feet and immigrated to Western Europe and to the United States. Upward to 40% of Russian Jewry in 1881 immigrated to the West and to freedom and the safety of other shores. Well, that was Race Riots on the Robinson Report. I certainly hope you were informed and entertained by this information I put together here for you. Again, don't forget to send us an email here at the Robinson Report at therobinsonreport@yahoo.com. Once again, the Robinson Report at yahoo.com. Thank you all. Have a happy holiday season, and we'll see you again soon. You are watching the Robinson Report.